Venom. The airplane's got it. Oh, no. It wasn't the airplanes. It was beauty killed the beast.
Sometimes the old movies really are the best. Peter Jackson came close, but yeah.
Ah, finally found the right frequency. Hewy, are you there?
Huh? Oh, hey, Cartoon Hero, what's up?
Not much now, but I think I've met that guy you were telling me about. Was he dressed all in black with a face that looked like a demon mask?
Oh. You've met Count Sijai too, huh?
Yeah, though he seemed to be in a pretty helpful mood when I met him. Wait, are you alright? That doesn't look like your normal filming location.
Nah, my normal location's over there. I'm just a little depressed after reviewing The Mighty Kong is all.
You didn't like it, huh?
Hell no! So now I'm trying to cheer myself up by watching the original King Kong. But now I hear my arch nemesis has attacked yet another reviewer friend of mine. So, what did he do?
Actually, you probably won't believe this, but he kind of helped me save the universe. Granted, he did force me to sit through one of the worst movies I'll ever review to give him the power to do it, but after I did that, he kept his word.
What was the movie?
Alice in Wonderland. And no, it wasn't any of the famous adaptations. Picture a public domain radio play of the book, but with horrible MS Paint levels of animation, and actually being sold for profit.
You know, you're lucky. At least he told you what you were reviewing. Me, I have no idea when he's going to send me another bad movie. It could be today, tomorrow, next month, maybe even next year. But whatever it is, I just know it's going to be bad. And I already just came off from reviewing a bad movie, so who knows how much worse this next movie will be. All because the fans wanted me to review Frozen.
Well, no one said that you had to sit there and wait until he sends you something to review. Why don't you try and wash the taste of that out of your mouth with something that you actually enjoy?
The last movie I reviewed already took something I enjoyed and wiped its ass with it.
Then why not take a look at a good adaptation of something you enjoyed?
Oh yeah? Like what?
Hell, I don't know. What else do you like besides King Kong?
Well, aside from Dinotopia, which I swore never to talk about again, there's The Last Unicorn, though I already reviewed that one. Anything by Ray Harryhausen, I did a countdown list of that. Disney, Will Vinton, Godzilla, video games, Dragon Ball, Batman, Transformers, My Little Pony, The Wizard of Oz.
Well, I have been on kind of a Wizard of Oz kick lately. I finally saw Return to Oz, and I'm rediscovering the books. So why don't we do something Wizard of Oz related?
Well, what else is there? I already reviewed that horrible Tom and Jerry crossover with Isaac, and there really aren't that many other animated Oz adaptations here in the States.
Well, why not try reviewing one from, I don't know, Japan or something?
Japan? Japan. Yeah.
You've thought of one?
Not only that, but since you like to review anime on your show, how would you like to review the movie with me?
Well, helping other reviewers out is kind of part of my job description, plus it sounds like fun.
Great! Cue the theme music!
Here comes Hewy, gonna give you the news. Time to watch his animated movie reviews, where the hand-drawn CGI puppets are great. If you've got a good story, you'll be making his day. See you at the movies, cartoon movies. See you at the movies, hold on to. See you at the movies, like nobody's business. Hey, see you at the movies, animated movies that is.
Hey everyone, I'm Hewy Toonmore. Welcome to Hewy's Animated Movie Reviews, the show where I review animated films from old to recent, whether they be hand-drawn, stop-motion, or computer-generated. Joining me today for this very special review is my good friend and fellow reviewer, the Cartoon Hero.
Greetings, everyone. Oh, come on, somebody here has to know who I am. You suck! Well, that's something at least.
Now, with the recent Oz revival, courtesy of the release of Oz the Great and Powerful last year, along with the animated film Legends of Oz this year, I think it's safe to say that Oz is popular again. I'm sure most of you are already familiar with the 1939 live-action classic, The Wizard of Oz, starring Judy Garland.
Of course I am. I'd be surprised if there was a kid out there who didn't grow up with it. It's a timeless classic that I think needs no introduction. Full of beautiful colors, great effects especially for the time, memorable characters and performances. I gush about the movie a bit more, but let's face it, chances are you've already seen it or you're tired of hearing other people do the same thing. Or both.
And let's not forget the original Oz book series by famed author L. Frank Baum, whom without, we wouldn't even have the classic movie or any other Oz-related thing in the first place.
And that's true of audiences around the world. The original Oz books were so full of imagination and wonder that in 1982, the Japanese studio Toho, most famous for the Godzilla film series, and Topcraft, who animated such films as The Last Unicorn and Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, released their own animated version of the original story for television.
Which is what we are taking a look at today. So, released to television on October 6th, 1982, the movie is, well, The Wizard of Oz. And just so all of you know, we'll be looking at the English dubbed version of the movie, since I don't really like reading subtitles all that much.
Well, considering that the movie was originally produced in English, I think that's fitting. And that's also true of the music, which is the first thing you'll notice when the movie opens.
It's all true. All my dreams are here for me to view. No one else believed what I just knew. And now it's all come true.
Definitely sounds like the opening to an 80s anime, I'll give it that. Very upbeat and catchy, if I do say so myself. Just something I never expected out of a Wizard of Oz movie is all. Here, out on the barren yet beautiful Kansas plains, we meet our heroine Dorothy Gale, who, with her blonde hair, blue dress, and white apron, looks more like Alice from Disney's Alice in Wonderland.
Or with the way her hair's done up and those blank, lifeless eyes of hers, probably rainbow bright.
She is voiced by Aileen Quinn, best known for playing Annie in the 1982 film adaptation of the Broadway musical.
Much like Judy Garland's Dorothy, she's still pining for a less boring world than the farms of Kansas, but unlike the 1939 film, there aren't any characters that look like the ones from Oz here. It sticks pretty closely to the book in that regard.
Along with her Aunt Em and Uncle Henry, there's Dorothy's faithful dog Toto, who looks exactly like Jacques from Lady and the Tramp. Seriously, I mean, look at him! The black fur, the gray mustache, the red collar, it's so obviously Jacques!
Well, to be fair, they are the same breed.
You saying all dogs look alike, hero?
No, that is not what I'm saying at all. You know what, let's just move on.
So Dorothy and Toto are left alone at home while her aunt and uncle go off into town for some errands.
We get a few scenes of Dorothy and Toto doing chores around the farm, and it's pretty much stuff out of a Norman Rockwell painting. It's like, gosh, ain't this farm life just swell? I sure hope nothing potentially life-threatening happens. Did I mention Uncle Henry has 2 days left till retirement?
That's delicious. Oh, Toto, doesn't Auntie Em bake the best pies? You know, I miss Auntie Em and Uncle Henry already. I'm glad you're here to keep me company, Toto. I do like pie.
I like pie.
I really don't like this opening that much. In the original, both the book and the film, it's established that Dorothy's unhappy with her life in Kansas, and let's face it, who wouldn't be? She lives on a farm in the middle of nowhere with her dog and an elderly couple, and insert your own Courage the Cowardly Dog joke here. But here, she seems perfectly fine. She's not bored, she's perfectly happy with the way her life is right now. So why is she even going to Oz?
Well, because we wouldn't have a story otherwise.
Fair enough. But when's that twister gonna show up already?
Oh, Toto, this is Auntie Em and Uncle Henry's most favorite place in the whole world. Uncle Henry says someday he's going to turn that barren field into a farm. Oh, gee, now what can I do that would really be fun? There really isn't much to do beside farm chores.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it!
Soon enough, you the movie realize that any scene with Dorothy by herself is boring, and so in comes the cyclone to whisk her and Toto away. Yeah, not real smart of you to leave your niece all alone at home, was it, Aunt Em and Uncle Henry?
But Dorothy soon finds herself transported to a magical place beyond her wildest dreams. Well, before her house falls on someone and kills them. Thankfully, the person that got killed was the Wicked Witch of the East, so the Munchkins aren't too torn up about it. All three of them. That's 80s anime for you.
Actually, Hero, if you looked at the original book illustrations by W.W. Denslow, you'll see that there were only 3 Munchkins to greet Dorothy when she arrives in Oz, though I don't remember the Munchkins being so tall.
Well, that or Dorothy's a lot shorter in this version. But the Munchkins aren't the only ones that came to greet her. There's also the Witch of the North, who actually wasn't in the live-action movie. Well, her magic isn't powerful enough to send Dorothy home, but she does use her magic cap to find out that her next destination is the Emerald City.
And as a gift, she gives Dorothy the magic slippers of the Wicked Witch of the East, whose body had dissolved after being both crushed by her house and exposed to the sun for too long.
Apparently she was a vampire witch. Who knew? She also gives Dorothy a kiss on the forehead, a magic kiss that'll protect her from harm.
But how do I get there?
You can't get lost. Just follow the yellow brick road as far as it goes.
The first companion Dorothy runs into is a scarecrow, and is it just me or does he sound like Jiminy Cricket?
Kind of a lovely day to be taking a walk. All I ever get to do is stay around here and scare crows, which is not a lot of fun.
Glad you're looking in, because I'm going to tell you about something you can't see, or hear, or touch. And life would be pretty dull without them.
So after helping the Scarecrow down from his pole, she...
Oh, here, let me help you.
Did Dorothy just cop a feel off the Scarecrow? Oh my god, she did!
Well, of course. I mean, after all, she did say,
I think I'll miss you most of all.
You're not helping!
Well, I think I'm a little stiff.
And neither is this movie for that matter! The Scarecrow is a bit skinnier here than he was in the live-action movie, but since he's not a guy in a suit in this version, I suppose that's fitting. Aside from that, he also has dreadlocks with bows at the end, along with an orange clown nose and beady little Hello Kitty eyes. Then again, this is an anime, so I'm not really all that surprised.
I'm pretty sure you know the Scarecrow wants a brain, but in this adaptation, we actually get to see his backstory as to why he wants one.
When I was first put up, I used to scare all of the crows away. Then one day, this old crow came around and he flew in a circle. And then he landed on me and he started eating my straw. Well, it didn't take him long to figure out I was only a scarecrow. Then the old crow perched on my hat and told me how awful it was to have no brains. So from that moment on, I began to think that I must have a brain.
The two decide to go to the Emerald City together in hopes of finding what they need there, but since it's getting dark, the two decide to rest at a cabin in the woods. Watch out for aliens.
As Dorothy goes to sleep, we get our second song.
I dream of home. Why did I roam so far away from home?
This one's okay. The singer's a little off-key, but it's a nice sentiment, with Dorothy wishing for her home, kind of like the exact opposite of Over the Rainbow.
The next day, however, they hear someone moaning, and it turns out it's the owner of the cottage, the Tin Woodman, who rusted in the rain and is unable to move until they oil him up with an oil can. The Tin Man's design is a bit more bizarre. They made him bigger in this version, which I suppose is fitting since he is a lumberjack, and he's okay, but they gave him these piercing eyes, tiny goofy teeth, and what looks like a beard made out of a bear trap. Then again, it could be worse.
Yeah, ever seen the makeup designs from the second season of Face Off?
Yikes.
You see, my joints rust very quickly, so I need a lot of oil. There are only 2 things I need, lots of oil and a heart.
We're going to see the Wizard of Oz. I'm going to ask him for a brain. Maybe he'll give you a heart.
That would be wonderful, because if I had a heart, I would be able to love somebody.
You know, I bet those of you who haven't read the book are wondering, why does the Tin Man need a heart in the first place?
Funny you should ask. In the book, he used to be a Munchkin woodcutter named Nick Chopper, who fell in love with a Munchkin maid named Nimia Me, but her cruel mistress had the Wicked Witch of the East enchant his axe so it would cut off parts of his body piece by piece. You can't die in Oz, so his body was just replaced with tin parts, but that left him without a heart.
Which, now that I think about it, sounds a lot like something out of Full Metal Alchemist.
Moving on from that bit of nightmare fuel, the three friends soon run into the Cowardly Lion, and their encounter goes pretty much the same as it did in the original. Now as for the lion's design, it actually looks exactly like the original W.W. Densel book illustrations.
Yeah, the lion in the original book wasn't humanoid like he was in the live-action movie. He was an ordinary lion. He could talk, but in Oz, that's ordinary.
I was born a coward. The lion is king. That's what they say. The lion is the king of the beasts. But not in my case. All the other animals in the forest run away and hide the minute they hear me roar. Me, I'm afraid of my own shadow. I'm a coward.
There are also a few added scenes from the book here, like when the Tin Man thinks he stepped on a bug and cries because he always has to be extra careful about how he acts towards others since he has no heart, rusting his jaw, or when there's a gap in the road and the lion has to jump across with everyone on his back one by one.
This was cut out of the live-action movie, and I can't imagine why. It lends credibility to the idea that all of Dorothy's friends really had what they needed all along.
As the group traveled deeper into the forest, the lion warns them about the monsters known as Kalidas. In the original book, Kalidas were creatures that had the heads of tigers and the bodies of bears, and judging from the original book illustrations, they really don't look all that threatening.
Speak for yourself!
Whoa! Hey, wait. That roar sounds awfully familiar. Oh my god. That's Gyra's roar!
What? Gyra? What are you talking about?
You know, Gyra from War of the Gargantuas? Here, I'll show you.
Well, I guess it makes sense given that Toho was involved with this movie, but considering how protective they are of Godzilla's roar, it's funny that they'd be willing to use that roar for something besides Gyra.
Speaking of which, the man who wrote this film was Yoshimitsu Banno, who die-hard fans will know as the director of the 1971 film Godzilla vs. Hedorah, aka the Smog Monster, and the executive producer of the recent Godzilla reboot directed by Gareth Edwards.
Wait, hold on a second. So, the guy who wrote this movie is the same guy who gave us this.
Yup.
And now he's producing the new movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay then. Our heroes try to run away but find the road blocked off by another ravine. The lion actually tries to stall the Kalido while the Tin Man chops down a nearby tree to cross it, again showing courage. And then as soon as the party's across and the Kalido is in the middle of the bridge, the Tin Man chops it down and sends it to a watery grave. Wait, they can't die. Does that make it better or worse?
Probably both.
But apparently they went to the Disney School of Drama because they followed that scene of the Kalidas' gruesome death, or something, with pretty birdies! However, this song, Wizard of a Day, is probably my favorite song in the movie. Seriously, it's upbeat, catchy, joyful, everything a scene like this needs.
Every heart is singing, yes, and every spirit's free. Every bird is singing me a melody.
In my opinion, this one isn't really that good. I know we had We're Off to See the Wizard in the original, but that served a dual purpose. The group was happy that they were going to see the wizard and felt kind of like a marching cadence. Here, it's just a happy song, probably so the kids can forget about the giant monster that just attacked. So after the song and cutting out the poppy scene altogether, they arrive at the Emerald City, which looks more like a single castle than it does a city, and are greeted by the captain of the guard, Ambi, who looks a lot less outrageous than he did in the original book illustrations.
However, like in the book, every party member is brought into the wizard's chamber, but each sees him in a different form. Dorothy sees him as a giant head, Scarecrow sees him as a beautiful winged lady, Tin Man sees him as a wild beast, and the Lion sees him as a ball of fire.
And it's here where my main problem with the movie is presented in full. The art design. Now, I'm not talking about the main characters themselves, but everything else in the movie, including the Land of Oz itself, just seems so plain looking and not as fantastic or whimsical as was portrayed in the 1939 film or in the original books.
Yeah, I don't completely agree with that, but I see where you're coming from. The 1939 movie pretty much got it perfect as far as color palette and designs went. It shows that they really wanted to show off their new color film with as many colors as possible, and it worked in the movie's favor. That's definitely one of this version's weaknesses.
It's like they were trying to recreate the original W.W. Densel illustrations, but did so in a lazily rushed and simplified way, with the exception of the Cowardly Lion, who looks spot on. But other changes like the Witch of the North, the Munchkins, the Captain of the Guard, and even the four forms of the Wizard himself look like something you'd see in a low-budget live-action movie from the 1950s or something. It's like they wanted to do their own thing, but felt restricted with such a short amount of time and money they were given, and only did so for the main characters.
Agreed. Take Oz's third form he shows to the Tin Man, for instance. In the book, Oz's form was described as a lot more fearsome, with 5 arms, 5 legs, 5 eyes, and covered from head to foot in thick shaggy hair. But here, it's just an ordinary rhino. An ordinary talking rhino, but still. Now don't get me wrong, rhinos are pretty badass looking, but you'd expect a lot more from a fantasy story.
Not only that, but this is Topcraft we're talking about. The same people who worked on The Last Unicorn and The Hobbit, the latter being a made-for-television film, and yet still had more creative-looking character and location designs than what we get in this movie.
Anyway, despite the changed faces, the answer from Oz is still the same. Kill the Wicked Witch of the West. And we immediately cut to the group outside their castle. However, one improvement from the text I have to bring up, the design of the Wicked Witch of the West. She has almost nothing in common with the original illustrations except for her one eye, but in this case it's new in a good way, and it makes her a lot more intimidating.
And here's something I bet fans of the film haven't seen. The Winkies. Yeah, in the original book, the Witch of the West rules over the country of the Winkies, a group of human-like people who serve as her guards and servants, at least until she's defeated. Spoilers, I think. Though, unlike in the book or the 1939 movie, the Winkies here look more like robots than they do people.
Also, like in the book, the witch sends a pack of 40 wolves after them, but I'm more distracted by the fact that this is the first we've seen of her. Okay, I know it was like that in the book, but at the same time, seeing the witch threaten Dorothy and even attack her in the 1939 film were some of the scariest parts of the movie. This witch looks intimidating and even has a similar voice.
I'll get you, Dorothy.
But I can't help thinking that the live-action movie's witch was a bit more memorable. Anyway, the Tin Man goes full-on act cop on the witch's wolves, but it's okay because they're magic constructs, apparently.
Next, the witch uses a horn to unleash an army of crows on the group, which then turn into one giant crow. But the Scarecrow takes them out by dousing it with a Tin Man's oil and then using the crow's beak to create a spark that sets the whole thing on fire! Damn, I knew in the books he broke all the crows' necks, but that's pretty hardcore!
Well, it looks like that group of crows just got murdered.
I don't get it.
However, the witch has one last trick up her sleeve, her army of flying monkeys. In the book, the witch had them under her control thanks to a magical golden cap, but here they decided to drop that, though I don't think it makes that much of a difference. Anyway, the monkeys try to hurt Dorothy, but thanks to the protection from the Witch of the North's magical kiss, they can't. But they all get brought to the castle instead.
As the witch tries to steal Dorothy's slippers, Toto bites her arm and Dorothy gets away, with Toto helping to untie the others. And surprisingly, instead of the more stealth-based approach the film took, we actually get an action scene, with Dorothy's friends fighting off the witch's guards.
And for being unable to directly harm Dorothy, the witch doesn't have much of a problem with trying to confuse her with illusions or trying to collapse the bridge she's running across, but thankfully the lion catches her.
Wow, this is way different than it was in the original book. Not even the 1939 film deviated this far.
I know. but I think I like it.
Seems kind of rushed in my opinion.
Oh, you think that's rushed? How about how they defeat the witch in this version? See, for some reason, despite the fact that water is her one weakness, the witch has a huge cauldron of water poised right above a stairway that she happens to chase Dorothy up, and what do you know, she manages to pour it on her and melt her.
And by melt, you mean shrink.
Well, regardless, the witch is defeated and the Winkies are free, leading to a reprise of Wizard of a Day.
I think I know of a better song we could use for this scene.
But you all know how this scene goes. They return to the wizard only for Toto to reveal, thanks to pushing a button, that in reality the wizard was nothing but Ebenezer Scrooge from The Stingiest Man in Town.
Actually, this is the real Wizard of Oz, who is nothing more than a showman from a traveling circus in Omaha, who wound up in the magical land after a storm blew him away in his hot air balloon, and the 4 different forms that Dorothy and the others encountered were just audio animatronics he had built in his spare time to fool people into thinking he was a great and powerful wizard.
Please give me the courage you promised to give me.
You already have courage. What you lack is self-confidence. Everyone gets frightened now and then, but the word courage means braving danger.
Please give me the brain that you promised me, Great Oz.
You learn something new every day. A baby has brains, but he doesn't know much. Experience is the only thing that brings knowledge, and you've got that from just living. The longer you are on Earth, the more experience you are sure to get.
What about the heart that you promised to give me?
I think you are wrong to want a heart. It makes most people unhappy. It's caring and kindness that count, and you have an abundance of those.
Okay, I know this was in the original book, but how was he able to build such convincing and lifelike robots given the time period this story takes place in?
Why, Hewy, haven't you seen Oz the Great and Powerful? Apparently Glinda was in on the whole thing and she helped him keep it a secret.
You know that movie's not canon with the books or the 1939 movie, right?
Yeah, but that was the only explanation I could think of. Again, like in the book and the film, Dorothy tries to fly off in the fake wizard's balloon, but Toto ends up running off and she misses her chance. However, just as they're all wondering what to do, who should appear but Glinda, the Good Witch of the South? And it's here where I actually have to bring up something this movie improved over the 1939 movie. In the film, the Witch of the North was cut out entirely and Glinda played both of the Good Witch's roles. However, as a lot of people point out, that means she probably could have told Dorothy about the power of the ruby slippers to bring her back home all along. However, since the Witch of the North was unable to tell her that due to her magic not being as strong, that actually clears up a plot hole from the film.
So Dorothy clicks her heels together and ends up back in Kansas, running back to her aunt and uncle as she did in the book, and our movie ends with one final line.
Where have you been, child? We were so worried.
In the land of Oz. Doesn't sound like that's in Kansas.
I've never heard of it either, Dorothy. Where is this place?
It's just beyond the rainbow.
So that was the 1982 Wizard of Oz anime movie. Well, Hero, what'd you think?
Gotta say, it might not be as good as the 1939 film, but I still think this version is worth checking out. The color palette isn't as incredible as the 1939 movie, but the 1982 movie sticks closer to the book, and in a lot of places, for the better. Adding in things like the Witch of the North and the scenes with the characters demonstrating that they already had what they needed all along not only stays true to the book, but lends more credibility to the ending. The film isn't perfect, though. Besides the lackluster animation, it also has a few pacing issues, with the beginning feeling drawn out and the ending feeling a bit rushed.
As for me, well, I was disappointed in the designs and animation, and I didn't enjoy it as much as the book, the 1939 version, or the 2 Disney films. It still got its own charm, and hey, it's still better than the Tom and Jerry version. The 1982 film works better as an adaptation of the first book, even though there were parts that got cut out. And to be honest, despite the shaky singing, most of the songs weren't that bad.
So what are you gonna rate this one?
I give it 3 stars out of 5. It's fun to watch if you're an Oz fan, but I wouldn't exactly call it a masterpiece either.
However, that's not the end of the story. Not just for the books, obviously, but for the Wizard of Oz in Japan.
Right you are, hero. After this movie, and even before, Japan made plenty more Oz-related projects such as various short adaptations of the first book, and a TV series called The Wonderful Galaxy of Oz, which was like what you'd get if you threw The Wizard of Oz and Star Wars into a blender. But if you want a truly faithful adaptation of the original book, and even the 3 books afterwards, then by all means you should watch the 1986 anime series Ozo no Mahotsukai, or, as it's better known in English, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, believe it or not, this exists. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz is a 52-episode adaptation of the first 4 Oz books, and I think that might be the only time that's happened. The first Oz book has been adapted plenty of times, but the sequels? I think the closest thing we've gotten is Return to Oz, and don't get me wrong, that's a great movie, but it's a more compressed adaptation than anything else.
This anime does a more faithful job adapting the original source material it's based on, though it still does take some liberties with the later stories. And being a television series, it gives you plenty of time to get to know the characters and watch them develop. Even if the animation can be a bit limited at times, the dull colors of the 1982 movie are nowhere to be found. This anime has a rich and vibrant look to it that really gives it a similar feeling to the colorful world of Oz. And whereas the 1982 film had creative designs for the main characters and plain designs for everything else, the TV series has creative designs for just about everything, even more creative than even L. Frank Baum himself could have ever imagined.
Not to mention, the English dub is narrated by Margot Kidder. Yes, that Margot Kidder.
Sure it's not Polly Paré?
Quiet, you.
The theme songs, both English and Japanese, are very good too, though I prefer the Japanese theme song more. Even if I can't understand the language, it's still a catchy song to listen to.
Agreed, but then again, it is an 80s anime. Those had a lot of good theme songs.
Overall, it's an interesting series that's worth checking out, especially if you wanted to see a film version of the Oz books and were disappointed that not that many were made. Well, that's all for now. I'd like to thank the Cartoon Hero for joining me on this review. It really did cheer me up after the last review I did.
Hey, no problem, Hewy. Helping people out is part of my job. Besides, I'm glad we got to talk about this version of Oz.
Me too. It's been a while since I last reviewed an anime, and it's good to review something that's both underrated and good for once. You know, aside from all the other good underrated films I've reviewed in the past.
And with that, I think it's time I left for now. But hey, if you ever need me again, you know where to find me.
Adios, hero. And as for the rest of you, be sure to join me for my next review. See the movies. Anime movies, that is.